welcome back to the Heritage Boatworks Podcast. This is episode number 11. Hi folks, welcome back to the Heritage Boatworks Podcast. Heritage Boatworks Podcast is the only podcast in the world dedicated to sharing the stories of New England small boat builders. This week's interview is with Jon Stuart at Arborvitae Woodworking in South Yarmouth, Massachusetts. Jon and I have a great story of how we met, and I want to share that with you. We had a blast doing this interview. I haven't laughed that much in quite some time, but Jon and I had a good time. He's an interesting guy with a really interesting story and just a fantastic outlook on life. So we had a lot of fun. The interview runs about an hour, but I hung out at the shop with Jon for at least another hour on top of that. That's not unusual. I hung out with the folks at Cape Cod Shipbuilding for a long time and Bill Womack at Beetle Inc. But that was touring their grounds. The Cape Cod Shipbuilding has acres of historic property, and they took me on a fantastic tour of the grounds and everything else. That's what I usually spend my time doing. But Jon's got basically a one giant room shop. We just kind of hung out and chit-chatted from everything about from high school years to college years to growing up in Massachusetts and everything else. So we really had a blast. Jon's a fantastic guy, and I think you'll enjoy the interview. So I'm doing a little test here with my podcast. I spend a lot of time editing podcasts, after my part of the podcast. As far as the interview goes, I don't really edit that much, but my personal introduction, I have a problem with the ums and the ahs. I seem to go back and be deleting those. So I've been told that if you have a problem public speaking, that a glass of red wine always helps before you go on stage. So I figured I'd put my own twist on that, and I just had a nice glass of Left Hand Brewery Nitro Milk Stout. If you're a stout drinker, it is absolutely fantastic. I've been a Guinness person my whole life, and this may be taking the place of Guinness. Left Hand Brewery Nitro Milk Stout. I have no affiliation with them. It's just a fantastic beer, and I'd recommend it to everybody. So that's the beer review section of the Heritage Boatworks podcast. I'm not sure if we'll ever cross that threshold again into the beer review department. So we've been very busy this month, and life has been kind of coming at me from all angles. My wife, I know if you've been reading my blog, my wife is in the middle of a project at her work, and she is tapped, busy all the time. And I've been picking up a lot of the slack at home, and it's still continuing. We do have a light at the end of the tunnel as far as her project goes, and my work continues. I work in IT and at a small company, and my work continues at the normal pace of 500 miles an hour. So it's been very busy. And not to mention, we've got 3 little people living with us. And they take a little bit of our time as well. There's one of those ums. The beer didn't help that one. The website's been very active too. I don't know how I find the time, but I still continue to write blogs and update. I actually had a bit of a disaster. The way WordPress works is you set up a page, and then when you set up new pages, it offers to clone that page to whatever page is already set up. So I had my home page set up initially, and I basically cloned every other page off of the home page. Somehow, by accident, I deleted my homepage. So that cloning feature that makes things so convenient initially really turned out to be a disaster, because as I deleted the homepage, there goes the rest of my website. So I don't know if you noticed, but my site was down hard for about a day. While I worked feverishly in the background to basically recreate the whole site. I had a lot of the designs in mind, so it didn't take a terribly long time. And I backed up the site and made sure I've got backups in place now. It's all back up. I think it looks a little better now. Another update is that the woodshop page on my site is gone, is no more. I've replaced that with a resources page. The resources page has everything on it from tool reviews, new and old tools, music players, web hosts, podcasting tools, kind of a bit of everything on there. A lot of the links on the page are affiliate links. I've also got a bunch of books on there that I've read from their links to Amazon. So with affiliate links, I get a little kickback if you click on anything there. So I'd check it out, see if you see anything there that interests you. If you click on an Amazon link and order anything, I get a kickback from that. It greatly helps offset the cost of keeping Heritage Boatworks alive and well. So I would greatly appreciate that. Also, the website is updated I'd probably say at least 2 or 3 times a week, whether it's a new page or a new blog or new pictures. So if you miss out on those, or if you're interested in seeing my updates each month, sign up for my newsletter. All my newsletter is a little blurb about the podcast, and then a bullet list basically of updates to the site with links. So it's a nice, easy way to go visit all the updates of my site over the course of the month. So I'd advise you to, that sounds aggressive, advise you. I'd recommend, that's a better word, I'd recommend that you subscribe to my monthly newsletter. It's at heritageboatworks.com/email1. That will bring you to a page where you can sign up for the newsletter. And you can unsubscribe at any time. But I haven't had any unsubscribes. In the year that I've been live, I've had 0 unsubscribes, which is encouraging to me. So I would assume folks are interested in what I have to say each month. And I thank all those that are subscribers. Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate you being on board, and I love communicating with everybody over the course of the month. Hopefully sometime in the future I'll be doing this more often, and we can get this done on maybe a weekly basis or bi-weekly or something to that effect. So some updates on the boats in the basement. Boat building class, so to speak, has not really been happening. My daughter actually just started asking me again when we're going to get to do boat building classes again, because she misses it. It's just kind of chaotic right now with Marcelli's back in town. Marcelli is my Marshall Sanderling. So she's just sitting in the driveway waiting for a quick bottom paint, and hopefully going to get her launched on Wednesday or Thursday of next week. I'll definitely put some pictures up for that, and I'm hoping to shoot a video of my mast raising system just to share that with folks. I think it's a super helpful tool that I built. So it's been a little hectic with that and with my wife's project and my work. It's been a little tough to kind of arrange to get the kids downstairs to work on their boats. It doesn't mean I haven't been down there, but getting the kids down there has been a little more challenging. Now, they've only got, I think Harry told me they have 16 days of school left. So once school is over, we should be diving back into boat building classes. With the wood duck kayak Harry's, I had a real hard time getting the shear panels on there. Basically, the deck is one piece, or 2 pieces, but the deck is the flat top part, and then the shear panels kind of mount at an angle to the deck, and then those shear panels will mount to the kind of hull of the kayak. So getting the shear panels onto the deck, I had a real problem with, and it wasn't so much that they didn't fit, it was more that I wasn't seeing the shape of the deck come together. You always kind of assume that you know which way an arc goes when you're kind of bending pieces of wood together, and I just wasn't seeing the correct arc. it dives one way and then dives another way towards the back of the boat, and I wasn't seeing the fact that the stern of the deck kind of swung upwards. So once I was able to kind of nail down that shape, I was able to get the shear panels on there and to get the deck pretty much built. So at this point, it's going to be stitching it all together, kind of doing a dry run, and then I'm going to start with the epoxy. So that came along, and that was it was probably a night that I really wrestled with those shear panels. The Bolger Bobcat ran into some problems there too. I in fitting the side panels on, I was trying to get them fastened to the stem, and again, just not coming together right. But this wasn't a case of me not seeing the shape of the boat. I've really studied the cat boat, and I know it inside and out. This was more that it just plain old wasn't fitting, and it was either the panels or the stem that was not working properly. So I went back to the drawing board with that. I drew out a new stem. I measured it all out, made sure all the measurements were accurate, and drew a new one out on a sheet of plywood, and took the old stem and kind of lined it up, and it really didn't line up correctly. There's a handful of important bends in that stem that just aren't quite making the turn the way it should. So that was an issue where Maggie and I glued up the stem, and I was more focused on Maggie and trying to keep the epoxy out of her hair, because that would have really gotten me in trouble with my wife and my daughter, as a matter of fact. But I was so focused on Maggie not getting epoxy in her hair and making sure she was being safe with the chemicals and things, but I wasn't really paying enough attention to the stem. When we glued it all up and I clamped it, I think the pieces slid a little bit. So it's a laminate, so it was about 10 pieces of 10 sheets of plywood laminated together, and the whole structure slid a little bit, and I think it really just threw the measurements of the stem off entirely. And I cleaned it up a bit on the sander, but by the time I cleaned it up, I had just completely changed the shape of the stem. So that's what happened there. I kind of knew that going in, but I was just going to put it in place and see if it fit, and it doesn't fit. So I need to build a new stem for the cat boat. No biggie, just a little setback, and it'll be a good lesson for Maggie that we really need to focus more on the details. And I'll probably entirely blame it on her, and it's entirely her fault because Daddy doesn't make mistakes. I'm just kidding. So that's the updates on the two boats. They're coming along great, and I'm having a blast as always. Even with these puzzles, I enjoy even the parts where you're completely stumped and don't know which way to go. It's still part of the process, and I still love doing it. So it's all good. So why don't we move on to the interview? And I have a quick story to tell. I actually tell it in the podcast too, but I want to share it again because it was just funny. It was a funny moment for me in boating. I was pulling Marcelli out of the water probably 2 years ago, and I had my 10-foot skiff. I use it as a dinghy to get out to Marcelli at the mooring. But I built a 10-foot Bolger skiff. It was the first boat I ever built. It was built about 6 years ago, and it's still in really nice shape, and it came together really well. It's a beautiful little boat, and it serves a fantastic purpose for me. So I'm kind of proud of it, as most boat builders are. The boats they build, when somebody asks a question about it, you're more than excited to tell them about it. So I pulled the boat out, and I had the skiff with me, and I threw it in the back of my pickup truck. And this gentleman came over and wanted to quiz me about my skiff. He hadn't seen one like that. And he said, "Where'd you get that?" And I said, "I built it." And he said, "Oh, yeah?" So I went into detail about how I built it. And because most people you tell these stories to, and they're amazed, they're enthralled by it. They think it's the coolest thing that they met somebody that built their own boat. I mean, it's really the only trade you can be in where you can build a form of transportation. It's just the coolest thing, and people are just so interested to hear the story about building a boat. So I went into detail about how I built this and the process I went into, and kind of like a proud dad bragging about his son's home run in a baseball game. I just thought I was cool. So after that conversation, a trailer pulled out with this real funky looking, I think it's a it's a British or English boat. Real funky looking. I forget the name of it. It's in the podcast notes. But I said, "Is that yours?" And he said, "No, that's a customer of mine's." And I said, "A customer of yours? What do you do?" And he said, "I build boats for a living." So it turns out this was Jon Stuart, and he owns Arborvitae Woodworking, and he is one of the premier boat maintenance, boat repair people on the Cape. He's really a craftsman, super passionate about boats and about boat building. Very intelligent guy, just a pleasure to talk to, but really talented boat builder. And I was just completely embarrassed because here I was gushing about my little 10-foot plywood skiff that's half beat up and painted and varnished, and I mean it looks pretty nice, but it's a plywood skiff, and this guy's repairing. While I was interviewing, I'm sitting next to a Wiano Senior, wooden Wiano Senior, that he's completely refitting. I mean, to be trusted with a boat of that level, this guy is a craftsman, and here I was gushing about my stupid little skiff. So he's very gracious and compliments me on the skiff still to this day, but I was needless to say a bit embarrassed by the whole conversation. So it was great. And when I contacted Jon for the interview and said, "Hey, I don't know if you remember me," and he said, "Of course I remember you. How you been?" Blah blah blah. So fantastic guy. And great interview. We had a blast, a lot of laughs in this one, and I really hope you enjoy it. Take it away, Jon. All right, we are here in South Yarmouth, Massachusetts. I'm with Jon Stuart at Arborvitae Woodworking. Welcome to the podcast, Jon.
Thank you.
So Jon and I met quite a while ago in kind of an odd situation. Odd for me, not so odd for you, but we were at a boat ramp over in West Yarmouth, and I was pulling out I think at the time I had my Sturdy Cat. But what I had with me was the dinghy that I had built, a small skiff, a 10-foot Bolger pointy skiff.
And a handsome skiff it is.
Thank you. And and Jon questioned me about the skiff and who built it, and me being the proud boat builder that I am, bragged about how great I was at boat building and that I built it myself. And so I later discovered that Jon owns Arborvitae Woodworking, one of the premier kind of boat refinishing spots and building spots on the Cape here. So I felt a little sheepish.
Well, we have a select clientele. We don't allow anyone's boat in here.
Yeah, right.
It's more of a club.
So I was. So Jon and I have seen each other a couple times since then at some boat shows and things. We always get a chuckle out of my bragging about my little plywood skiff. And
your bragging rights were due.
Yeah, thank you. So, as usual, I want to get a little bit about your background and a little bit about the story of Arborvitae and how we got to where we are now. So why don't we start with you? Let's say out of high school.
Out of high school, actually. Yeah. Well, my boat building experience started. Probably I was 6 or 7 years old.
Oh, great!
Yeah, my father had a pair of Chris Craft runabouts where he would take people on tours of Boston Harbor, and he would pull it into one of them at a time into our garage, and every year he'd be pulling these giant V8s out and rebuilding them every year because they would need it. So they're beautiful mahogany Chris Craft varnished, and then.
How big were those?
They were 20. I think they were 22s and 21.
Oh, I wish you still had those.
One was a twin cockpit. It was beautiful. And but my mother decided my father needed a real job as I got older. So those boats were unfortunately sold. A couple of years later, my father decided, well, we should build our own boat. Mm-hmm. So what we built was a plywood fiberglass covered type tri-hull.
Okay.
Which we would take fishing all the time in Boston Harbor.
Yeah.
Because he knew all those
How
spots.
big?
Well, that was only 19-footer.
Oh, a tri-hull 19-footer
Yeah,
Boston Harbor.
It looked like a giant Boston whaler.
Right.
But it was a blast. It was the only time in my life I've gotten seasick was at anchor in the hull gut, with about a foot of flounder in the bottom of the boat.
Not sure if it was the sea or the flounder.
Well, I'm not exactly sure either, but that was the only time in my life I've actually gotten seasick.
Yeah, that's great.
It was an interesting trip. We filled the boat to the gunnels with flounder and then passed them out to everyone.
Yeah, that's great.
And I'm sure they were very healthy for everyone at that time with the
So
sewage running into the harbor.
Yeah, it's probably not. But it made everybody sick.
It made everyone very happy, though, that they were getting free flounder.
So what year was that around?
If I was born in 1949, so that would have been 58 or so, something like that.
All right.
Yeah.
So
there. And then, let's see, I went from high school, 4 years of having Latin beaten into me by the nuns.
Where'd you go to high school?
The Cardinal Spellman in Brockton.
Yep.
And my Sister Mary Chainsaw, I think, was my favorite. Not if I remember, that was her nickname at the time. But from there, I went to UMass Boston as an art major, majored in studio art, and I graduated in '67 from high school. So around 1970, I was recruited out of college for a design company on Newbury Street when they were building the Quincy Marketplace.
Oh, great. Yep.
So I did get a lot of experience there in design and building of bars, believe it or not. Yeah, nice. which was fun. It stood me in good stead till this day because we still actually do design work on bars. Yep. And I do design work on homes and commercial cabinetry too.
Yep.
Which is fun.
Yeah.
Commercial accounts are great.
So I realize Arborvitae Woodworking is you do both boats and custom cabinetry.
Yeah, we don't do a lot of the cabinetry because it's we did more in the past. We had the account for like Cape Colonial Candle, Cape Cod Candle that has since been bought out and shut down. But we 4 or 5 years ago we did a 35-foot long mahogany bar for a bar down on the waterfront in Dennisport, and it was pretty. First thing we did was order $20,000 worth of mahogany. Wow. It's one of those things, but it was that was an experience.
What bar is it?
It's the it's a what the heck's that? Seaview.
Seaview. Okay.
It's a wedding destination.
Yeah.
And
have to check it out.
Yeah, it came out very well.
Nice.
It's a different kind of bar though because it's a wedding bar. So of course I had plenty of experience from one side of the bar, but not too much behind the bar. And I hope this is going to be edited. What it is the people come into the bar, 250 people come into the bar, and they all want drinks immediately.
Right.
So there's 6 bartenders back there. So we had to design a bar that 6 people could work behind. Yeah. Which is a whole different story because they needed 500 glasses stored behind the bar rather than throwing you being a previous bartender, understand you're running low on something, it goes in the dishwasher and it comes out a few minutes later. Well, they have to send those downstairs to a huge machine which cycles them in like 3 minutes.
So you needed the storage for them immediately.
So that was interesting, but the pay was phenomenal working for on Newbury Street, and the experience was great. I met all kinds of really interesting people, but it was, I had done a lot of sculpture work in wood, and I'm trying to think, well, gee, how the heck can you make money in sculpture.
Right.
There isn't a lot of that. And then they said, well, boats.
Right.
They're actually sculpting. So I did an apprenticeship with a guy, Bob Wallace, who was absolutely brilliant. And I worked with Alan Weitzies and a bunch of guys who were really good, and just started building boats.
Where did those guys work when you did the apprenticeship?
Well, it started out as an apprenticeship program called New England Apprenticeship, if I remember correctly. And that would have been 1979 or so. In 1980, the school went defunct, and I rented the equipment and the site from them down in Buzzards Bay.
Mm-hmm.
So we were building boats in there, and then 1984 I moved here.
Okay.
And I've been here ever since.
Yeah, that's great. So you went straight. So the boat building started in your youth, but then there was kind of a gap in high school and college. But you were still kind of honing your.
A lot of you see a lot of kids that a lot of people don't take to book learning and go into college, and they go to the boat building schools in Maine, but really the jobs they're going to get coming out of there are sanding bottoms.
Right. Yeah.
At these yards, there aren't that many wooden boat builders that are going to hire all of those kids. That's why I think those boat building schools are expanding now into engine, motor,
fiberglass.
Wiring, fiberglass, FRP stuff. Yeah, all of that, which is good because Rhode Island alone, in the marine industry, employs almost 100,000 people.
Right.
So there are, and electronics as well, especially electronics. There's always jobs for guys in that, and outboards, things like that.
Right.
So, so I'm still here.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, there was a little bit of a gap there between high school and college, but like I say, you're still kind of honing your skills at that point.
Yeah.
Went and worked this apprenticeship with these guys, and how. Was there a point when you were working this apprenticeship that you said, geez, I really want to have my own boat shop? Or
that was a goal. That became a goal very early on, because there were a lot more wooden boats at the time. So all my training and most of my earlier experience was in wooden boats, and I'd be building boats in here and maintaining. We had it's a very small shop, and so we have to turn over things fairly quickly. So we'd always be building a boat in the back of the shop. We'd build a wooden boat, a Whitehall or something, and more people would say to me, well, gee, if you ever build one of those in fiberglass, I'd love one in fiberglass. So, it was maybe 10 or 12 years ago now that I started looking for molds to start building some fiberglass ones, and really, honestly, it's like I can't finish one before it's sold.
Right. Yeah.
We don't build that many. The first year, I think I advertised in Maine in a magazine in Maine, and you have to stay ahead of the curve on this because you'll saturate the market fairly quickly with a particular boat. But I started building Peapods in the first year. I couldn't possibly fill all the orders we had, and then of course people realize that you're building a successful boat, and then that particular design may be in the public domain. So now there's a dozen guys in Maine all building a similar boat.
Right.
So because Mainers think I'm from away.
Right. Yeah.
Is the term. So what does this guy from Cape Cod know about Peapods?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I did do the Portland, Maine Boat Builder Show, and there were 3 other guys building Peapods here, and the general agreement was that they didn't come close to what mine looked like.
Nice.
So that was flattering. To everyone.
Well, you had the experience on them too.
Yeah, I was way ahead of them on that one.
That's great. Yeah, Maine definitely has a mystique about their boat, whether it's self-inflicted or not.
Well, there's guys up there that are just phenomenal boat builders.
Right.
Absolutely gorgeous stuff. And the coast of Maine, if you want to. If you can live there, if you can stand the temperatures, which I'm not a cold weather guy at all.
Me either.
There's a ton of people that will be happy to spend you whatever it costs for a boat that they want.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just watched a video on Off Center Harbor about rebuilding one of their schooners up there. And
Oh yeah.
I mean, Off Center Harbor is a company out of Washington that
Right.
just does boat videos.
I've seen it.
They're great.
Yeah.
They're great. And this video, by the end of the video, I mean, you don't know whether you want to jump up and cheer or start crying. The boat is just so damn beautiful, and
Gorgeous.
And the craftsmen that worked on it, they're showing the stuff that they're doing, and you're like, dear God.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that must have taken months just to build that breast hook or something.
Oh
you know,
yeah.
just
The
detailing
scale
is
on a
unreal.
schooner is daunting,
Right,
to say
right.
the least. I mean, you got like 2-inch thick oak that
Yeah.
you're trying to steam and bend in. I donated to Burnham's, which is up next to the Essex Shipyard.
Mm-hmm.
If you've been there,
Yep.
that'd be an interesting guy you might want to check out.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, he built a schooner, a pinky schooner that he's using to take people out of on day sails, head sail boat, and I just had ended up with a couple hundred locust trunnels from some project we were working on, and I just didn't want to leave them on the ground. It took me, so I donated them to this guy who built a schooner, and they went into all of his deadwood, where all the places that he sent me a bunch of photographs
Nice.
that were interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have to get up there to sail in that boat, but
Yeah, one of the clips on that video, they showed, I think, 3 or 4 guys holding one of the timbers
Oh,
and
yeah,
trying to put
yeah.
it through a planer, you know, like a regular sized plane.
good line, tip the planer over.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
They're all kind of holding it and pushing it through, and yeah, it's just it's something that 2 guys or 3 guys could never do.
No,
you
no,
need
no,
a whole
no.
team of people doing it.
Yeah, that's it gets this. That's why. Well, the boats, the stuff that we build in fiberglass, the small boats are, they're easily handled. I think I just a rough estimate. I'd say maybe some 60-something% of my boats are bought by women.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah,
Huh.
it is. They're easily handled. They're not intimidating. They're lightweight.
Yeah.
And
Easy to maintain.
it's easily maintained. Yeah, I mean, we can build them. Well, if you all have to do is varnish the rails,
Right.
basically, and put some on the interior of our boats is Atlantic white cedar. We shifted over from northern white cedar to Superior planking wood, but it's very difficult to get, and I'd have to drive to Maine, but I can drive to Rhode Island and get Atlantic white cedar from down south,
Nice.
which is harder and lasts longer, and less knots.
Okay.
So the seats and thwarts inside of my boats are made from that
Okay.
with an oil seal.
Yep.
So
Yep.
very simple to maintain.
Yeah, that's great.
All
That's
removable.
great. Very good. Okay, so we got just about to the start of Arborvitae. Is it Arborvitae? Arborvitae?
Well, that depends on which Latin scholar you're speaking
Well,
to.
my Latin scholar would say
Would say there's also Arborvitae.
Vitae.
Don't forget.
Well, how do you pronounce it?
The standard, I mean, Americanized version is Arborvitae.
Vitae. Okay. Arborvitae.
But yeah, I think you're correct in Arbor.
Really?
Yeah, in Arborvitae.
Okay.
I think that
It's acceptable.
The British Latin we've Arborvitae.
Right.
And that's an interesting. You see, I was trying to come up with a name, and of course, Arborvitae Woodworking. The name predates the internet, so otherwise it would have been ABC boats.
Yeah, right.
Triple
AAA boats.
Yeah, AAA boats, exactly. Quadruple A boats.
Yeah, yeah.
But I said, gee, I need a name for the company, and we've got cedar. Oh, we're building all this because I love working with cedar. It just smells good and it's easy to work with, and making planks out of it is like heaven. And nothing smells better than when you shaving out a plank. And so I said, oh, geez, I think I'll call it, Arborvitae.
What does Arborvitae
Well,
mean?
it's that Arborvitae it translates as into the tree of life.
Okay.
Now, so Jacques Cartier was trying to find the Northwest Passage, being the brilliant guy that he was, and was frozen in up in the St. Lawrence, and his sailors are dying of scurvy. And the Indians took the berries from the juniper tree, which they're all classified as cedars, but they're really not actually in the cedar family, if I remember correctly. But they would boil up a tea from the berries and the leaves, which was very rich in vitamin C, and it's Thuja occidentalis, which you can also get into the pronunciation. But you can go to Amazon.com and buy it as a medicine. So, so it was the first tree that was after the thaw. It was brought back to. It was the first tree from the New World brought back to the Old World.
Interesting.
Yeah,
that's great.
And so the tree of life and trees are my life.
Yeah, right.
So
that's
it seemed to make sense at the
time. Might not be internet friendly, but
no, it was all very logical in my mind at the time.
Okay, so we got to the start. So tell me how you made the transition from the internship into Arborvitae. Into Jon's boat shop.
Yeah, well, it was woodworking, so I was doing anything that people would give me. I built a lot of furniture. There was a time frame there that shaker furniture was very popular, so I was building shaker furniture, and then more boats would start coming in, more boats would start coming in, and finally I was able to just forget the furniture. It's every once in a while do some furniture for someone if it's interesting.
Yeah.
And well, besides that, the design work was always there. I'd be designing house interiors or cabinetry for people and letting someone else execute them. Mm-hmm. But I'd rather do it myself, of course.
How about boat designs? Do you do boat designs?
Yeah, well, all of these molds that we have for these fiberglass hulls, I mean, all we have is a design of the hull.
Right.
And the ones that we've chosen have gone through thousands of iterations over the years to become what they were. So if you think you can really design something new, you're wasting your time. It's already been done. There isn't anything new.
Design a square boat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, Pete Culler even said, I mean, the only thing that he actually can really lay claim to is the type of snotter he built. That was it for his sprit rigs.
That's it.
Everything else had been done before. I mean, you may think you've hit on something new, but unless you're a chemist and are creating a new type of epoxy or something for boat building, it's already been done.
Yeah.
So ours are tried and true classic boats that work, and we know they work.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so. Great. So when you build your boats, let's dive into your fleet. I've gone on your website. I went on your website probably a couple of years ago when I met you, and then another year ago or so when I saw you at the Cape Cod Boat Show.
Yes.
There. Does your line of boat change a lot, or do you pretty much sell the same hull with custom designs?
Yeah, we can start a boat and put the flotation in, and then from there, people want it for specific purposes. Like if someone's just going to row it, they don't need a rub rail on it. If they're going to use it as a tender, we can put a rub rail on it. Like that P plot up there. What we like to do is do it like the Lolly used to do, is cove in the rub rail and just glue the rope in.
Okay.
Which is great. It's a lot. It's less expensive, and it's easier to change and
zero
keep
maintenance.
Clean. Yeah, and then instead of the Dacron covered foam stuff.
Right.
Which is
looks good.
There's 1,000 screws in it too that you're putting into the. I mean, it takes. I think I have to charge $18 a foot to put that on it. So yeah, it's very expensive stuff.
What do you glue that rope in with?
Believe it or not, industrial strength, hot melt glue.
Really?
Yeah.
That holds.
Oh yeah, you can't
like
get it off.
Cures,
You're melting plastic. It's just a hot glue gun. This is what the big guys use, big fiberglass fabricators use to tack in big pieces of hulls. Like one of my fabricators makes parts for the MJ boats up in Boston, the 36-foot power boats, and they're tacking all these huge pieces in with this industrial strength glue. And I said, "Wow, hey, where do I get one of those?" It's not like you go down to Home Depot and find the little thing with the little stick. No, this is a heavy duty thing that really burns the shit out of your hand too. But it holds the stuff in there well. But also, with the fibers of the rope, you can pull it. You can peel it off and leave the fibers of the rope. But it takes couple of people, two
Right.
hands to get the stuff off. So it works great.
Yeah, right.
It's very simple too. Keep it simple. The simpler the better.
Yeah, I agree.
Less maintenance the better on a boat.
Now, your construction, how do you, what goes into the construction of a boat? Hand laid in the mold?
Oh yeah. Well, the only boat that is made that we sell with the chopper gun is our skiff.
Okay.
That's too big for hand laying.
Yeah.
All the rest of them are made by a fellow up in Maine, who Don Moore is his name. He's absolutely brilliant. He was building fiberglass canoes for Old Town and all of the people up there at the time. And so I have all my small boat molds are up in Maine, and he does it by hand. The only thing that's sprayed into the mold is the gel coat.
Mm-hmm.
And from there he goes on and does it with, I think he's still using the same putty spreader that he had 20 years ago. and then he's mixing the stuff and pouring it out of a coffee can, and it just comes out absolutely perfect. It's so lightweight and so strong.
Yeah, yeah.
I've watched him do it, and I couldn't even begin to do what he can do.
That's great. I guess you do it enough times. That
yeah, exactly.
Get
and he's built thousands and thousands of houses. At one point, I had a partner at one point when we started. I was telling you earlier that between us, I think, if I remember correctly, there's like 130 molds for small boats and canoes, kayaks, and things. Yeah. But a lot of that stuff now being made out of HDPE, recycled high-density polymer and coming from China, and they're selling them up the street for $180. So if you like that, you'll see a boat up there. That's a peak color double paddle canoe, like with a kayak paddle, with a Heritage kayak paddle, and
that looks really tiny. Is it because it's up there? Or
yeah,
it
well,
really
it is.
tiny?
It's 13 feet. It's small. It's a one-person little kayak.
Okay.
But it's a canoe because it's an open boat. But we were building those.
I see the paddles too. Those are cool.
Yeah, those are great. That's a Heritage pattern for his double paddle canoe, which is a decked over. That's a neat one.
And for the listeners out there, I'll have pictures of all this stuff on the show page.
Good, as long as you don't take too many pictures of the inside.
It's nothing
of the
worse
shop.
than sitting on an audio broadcast saying, "Wow, look at that! It's
wow,
beautiful.
Look, that's really cool.
I wish you guys could see this."
That's too bad. So, but where were we? So how did I end up?
That canoe.
Yeah, that's a peak color. Early on, we were building a lot of color boats. And now, just to put a plug in for the Cape Cod Maritime Museum, they're rebuilding. They're building a replica of Pete Color's workshop down there. And they're getting a whole bunch of his boats in, which is going. I think it's open now. Actually, this weekend, I believe.
Excellent.
It's open, so you can get out and see all kinds of color boats.
That's right in Hyannis.
Yeah. Yep. And right in the waterfront.
Yep.
You can walk from downtown, and they're lovely people and brilliant.
Yeah, I've been in there a number of times. We go over to the Marine Festival or whatever it is.
Oh, yes.
It's always fun. We sail over there usually.
Yeah, exactly.
If I can not crash my boat when I try to dock it.
Yeah.
We take the dory.
We take the dory from our mooring over.
And I have an outboard on my boat too, so
You'll need it. You need it in tight there.
Yeah,
you do.
Yeah, it's tough, and I'm not not great under power. I could probably sail into it easier than I could under power.
Probably, if there were any wind in there.
Exactly.
But the color boats. Until you go back to like Shiverick, he's the guy on Cape Cod that designed. I mean, we got Pete Color and the other fellow from Mystic that did the small boats, John Gardner. Started. I turned around away from your microphone.
Hopefully it'll still pick it up.
They started the Traditional Small Craft Association, which there is a chapter now of at the museum.
Yeah. Oh, great.
Which is great. Yeah. So because small craft, I mean, the easier it is, I find, and everyone agrees with me after they've bought one of my boats. They might have a 40-foot sailboat. They might have a 28-foot power boat. But if they buy a 13-foot boat, it gets more use than any of the other boats.
I think probably every one of my podcasts, in some way or another, that has been said. And I always tell the same story that I had a 22-foot sloop.
Yep.
Piece of crap boat. It was a Kells.
Oh, yeah.
Kells sloop. Just a junk. I loved working on that boat.
Yeah.
I couldn't wait every day to go out there and do the work. I didn't want to sail it.
No, sailing, it's too much work.
I'd put it in the water, and it would sit there. I'd probably get out on it twice a whole season.
Yeah.
And then I went out and bought the Sturdy Cat.
Yeah.
And I went sailing probably 3 times a weekend.
Yeah.
You just go out and pull up the sail, and you're gone.
I mean, unless you're really going to go cruising and take your vacation, or you're a teacher or something to have the whole summer off,
right.
You're going day sailing.
Yeah.
Or you just want to get out on the water.
Or maybe an overnight.
Yeah, exactly.
Night, which is, I have a Marshall 18 now, which is, I told
perfect.
my wife it's as big as I'll go. I don't want anything bigger. Maybe I'll spend a bunch of money and have it refit and stuff, but at some point, but that's it.
We had a big island packet at one time, and then we decided, this is too much work. We don't need this big boat. And then we had a smaller boat, and now you see the 10-meter finished boat out there that I'm restoring. You go back and forth.
Yeah.
But
here you are telling me I'd much rather have a small boat. Yeah.
Well,
about a half an hour.
You need a way to get to that boat. Yeah, and the rest of the afternoon I'm going to spend rewiring that and fairing up the bottom. Exactly. Yeah.
And that's a beautiful boat. I'll put some pictures of that.
That's a great boat. It's a fantastic
amazing.
boat.
And for a good price.
Oh, yeah, well, it was, the tax killed me on that, the 63 cents on the $10
Yeah, why don't you actually tell a story about how you got that boat?
Well, that boat was, unfortunately, the fellow that owned it had only had it in the water for, we think, about 5 years. And he was transferred out west and he'd been trying to keep up on the storage fee, but it had been in storage for like 30 years. And finally the yard said, well, he's not paying his bill, we're going to crush it. And I got a call from a friend who worked at this local marina, and they said, you should come down and look at this sailboat. And when I saw it, I was stunned. Mm-hmm. I said, you can't crush this.
No.
I said, it's gorgeous, and it hasn't been used.
Yeah.
I mean, the cushions, the sails are in beautiful shape.
Right.
And so I said, okay, I'll take it. What it is I'm a preservationist at heart. We own an antique house that we've been restoring since 1985. It's one of the oldest houses on the Cape, but it's a low post and beam cape. It has much character. When we bought it, it was condemned, and it was going to be knocked out. It's on Route 6A in Yarmouth Port now, and it's after about 10 years of work in my copious spare time. wasn't getting a lot of sleep at that time. Yeah. It became what is called the most photographed and painted house on Cape Cod.
Wow, excellent.
Yeah.
So you're like the savior of all things wooden.
Apparently, it's come to that, hasn't it? And I can't help myself. It's an addiction. It's an addiction as well as an affliction.
Yeah, right. Okay, let me try to get us back on the rails here.
Wherever that were.
So your boats.
Yes.
Let's talk about the boats.
The boats.
You obviously you offer refinishing services. That we're sitting here with a boat that's being refinished now, a Wiano Senior. But what do you offer as far as your new boats that Arborvitae makes?
Well, yeah.
Jon's Boat Shop.
Yeah, it is. Well, my wife refers to it as the Huntington Avenue Boys Club.
Yeah.
We don't allow just anyone in. You have to be sponsored by by a previous employee.
A previous member.
A previous member, exactly. But our boats are fiberglass hull, very lightweight, Peapods, Whitehalls, Chamberlain dory skiff. You can see a hull up there.
Yep.
And this one, believe it or not, that is a 10.5-foot punt.
Okay. Yeah.
You could put the whole crew of 6 in that boat and use it as a tender.
Yeah, punts they can take a ton of weight.
Just a ton. And I have people begging me for that boat. I just haven't had time to. They want it for their kids when they graduate from an opti. And people like if they do have time to take a vacation on a boat, they really want the tender to be saleable.
Right.
I mean, a lot of these molds that my partner and I were able to buy at very inexpensively. They were made it costs a lot of money to make these things, but they weren't being used because of inflatables.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
But now I see the movement at the last Maine Boat Builders Show. A lot of the guys in Maine that are building big boats have taken those molds back out of storage and are making them again, offering them with their boats. You can see, I saw one after the other. You can order the color of the hull and have the matching tender.
Yeah.
Cape Dory people were always famous for that. We've had quite a few Cape Dories
matching boot stripe and bottom,
and they have to have the 10-foot Cape Dory tender with the sailing and every
Right.
matching colors. So that's becoming back into vogue. The inflatables, hey, inflatables are great. They're safe until they sink. And but you can bounce off your boat and not hurt anything, but
Right.
you can't row them,
Right. No.
and you can't sail them.
Right.
And if you want to explore in a cove you're going to someplace, if you're sailing up the coast of Maine, where I'm going to be in a couple of weeks, I shouldn't
Nice.
tell anyone that because
Nice.
their boats won't be done. You want to get out into water and go up on these small islands.
Right. Right.
Yeah, it's not so much down here in the Cape. But we would always tow one of these boats if we were going over to the Vineyard or Nantucket, so that we could sail around to the beaches.
Right. Right.
Which is a blast.
Yeah.
I mean,
great.
if you don't run out of gas, the inflatable will do that for you too. But
Yeah. Right. Right.
it's,
Or if the motor just decides it doesn't want to run that day,
which is quite
happens a lot.
which I have half a dozen of right here that have to be repaired actually.
Okay, so back to the boats you offer.
Yes, Chamberlain Dory skiff, which John Gardner claims was in the 13-foot range, probably the most seaworthy boat he had ever built. In his book, you can even see someone sitting in the 13-foot version with a sliding seat.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
a
okay.
lightweight, not a guy your size.
Yeah, right.
A guy more not around, even less than my size, a lightweight rower. We've always had guys. You see UMass rowing on here. The fellow on my sweatshirt, everyone. I've always had guys from rowing clubs that were coaches, and they always come back.
Yeah, right.
From Cape Cod Rowing, which is a great outfit if you want to get out in the water.
That's great.
And they're down in Lake Wequaquit. So I kind of help them out. That shell up there that you see, that's for sale on my website, but the money will be donated to Cape Cod Rowing. That was built in 1920s in north of Boston.
So what is the
in
material?
Bunker Hill.
on
That's
top?
all made out of Spanish cedar.
You can see through it.
Oh, the deck, yeah,
The
no,
deck.
it was
It's a skin of some sort.
it's a skin of some sort. I'm not exactly sure,
Huh.
and it's varnished over.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Yeah,
Well, I bet that's lightweight.
it doesn't weigh hardly anything.
That's
It's a
amazing.
beautiful boat. It's a nice adornment. I was hoping some of the Charlestown Historical Society wanted to take it because it was built in Charlestown by a fellow, and they wanted to put it, but they didn't have a place to put it, unfortunately. So they're still looking for a place. I'd love to let them have it
Yeah.
because it was given to a fellow who went to Harvard as his practice shell, and he was on crew there, and then it went into his basement for 50, 60 years.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah, it can't.
It belongs on a wall.
It can't. It needs to be in a museum. It shouldn't be in a. It should never go back in the water.
No.
I wouldn't sell it to someone if they intended to do that. So
Okay.
we're
and,
off track again. Back to my
your
boats. Yeah, my boats. So where were we? Well, I was just listing them off. We have a 10.5-foot tender, which is a great little boat. We have a dory, which is a sailing version, with a full liner. Neat boat. That was the black one you saw with the sprit rig. All of 13-foot boats have the same sprit rig.
Now,
color
why do you
design.
choose? Why do you choose a sprit rig?
Well, it's the simplest, lightest rig there is,
Okay.
in my opinion. In a lot of people's opinion. Also, curiously enough, if this can be researched, you can Google this if you like. But there was a test done of the efficiency of different sail rigs, because you always get the people. Well, the Marconi rig is more. This is better. This is better. And,
Yeah.
I'm sure there were large bets being made.
I have a gaff, and I'm going to tell you that the gaff is not
No, right. Well, so they put up the different rigs in the wind tunnel, and I've read this article. I'm not sure if it was in Wooden Boat or not. It was in one of the magazines quite a few years ago, and it turned out the sprit sail was most efficient.
Interesting.
Yeah, lowest center of effort for the size of the sail, and weight-wise. Plus, you have to remember that a sprit rotates.
Right.
The mast has to rotate, so the leading edge of that sail is always into the wind, and a round mast, most efficient.
Yeah,
I mean,
makes
when
sense.
you look at what the America's Cup guys were doing. Whoa, we've got rotating masts.
Yeah,
no kidding. They
You
did
may have-
2,000 years ago too.
You may have just started a storm of controversy.
I did.
At
I'll
Heritage
be
Boatworks.
getting emails. Will be flying in as soon as you post
Heritage
this.
Boatworks is going to blow up. There's comments into there and be like,
terrible.
the Marconi.
No way. That's preposterous. Preposterous, I say. But I find it. I mean, I've sold the sprit rigs to this little petite woman. Katuit has one, and I think she must weigh 85 pounds, and she can throw it up on her shoulder and carry it. She lives 2 blocks from the water and carry it up. And they have a blast. I've taken. I was sandbagged once by. I had the Chamberlain dory skiff. Chamberlain is the one I was speaking of earlier, that Gardner thought was such a good boat, and we put a sail rig in one, and that one was for sale, and a woman came up and said, "Well, I've never sailed a sprit rig. A sprit rig. Let me try it." So we took it over to a nearby pond, and she got in the thing, and the boat was flying.
Yeah.
And she's coming about, whipping this thing around, and I'm thinking, what is going on here? She said, "Well, why don't you let me?" She said, "Why don't you sail it?" So I said, "I can't sail it as well as you just did." And it turns out she was a competitive racing sailor that hires herself out as.
Nice.
Yeah. She said, "Well, we've been going around looking at boats, and yours is the 5th boat yard we've gone to looking for a small boat. And you were the first guy that wasn't full of shit about their boats," she said.
Okay, good.
And she said, "I'll take it."
Nice, nice.
And actually, she got it going so fast at one point that we had a kick-out rudder rather than a swing-out rudder. There's a big angle in the transom. The rudder would kick out if you're sailing at a normal speed. And apparently, she took it down to Orleans, and it went over a sandbar and busted the thing off the boat. She said I was going too fast.
Broke the
She
pintles
said,
and everything.
Yeah, she
right off?
busted the pintle right off. She said, "Do you have any more?" I said, "I'll give you one because I know how fast you were going on that boat."
Right.
It's like a rocket ship under sail. It
That's
really
great.
is. Yeah, it's great fun.
Yeah.
Great fun.
What else?
Well, we have our new skiff, which we're going to be ordering more hulls. We've been too busy to build any, and it's a New Bedford skiff, a Korea family skiff, and everything about it is just right. Everybody that has one thinks it's the best boat they've ever owned. My fabricator used my mold to build one for himself, actually. And
nice.
he said, "I've owned 1,000 boats in my life. This is my favorite boat." I ran a fellow met me at the last Cape Cod Boat Builders show, and he said, "Do you own the mold for this boat?" I said, "Well, yeah." He said, "You own the mold for this boat?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "You really own the mold for this boat?" I said, "Yes, I do. I own the mold for this boat. What is the problem?" He said, "No, I've been looking for one of these for 10 years. He said, "I have a wooden one, and I know that they were building them in fiberglass, and I couldn't find it anywhere."
Nice.
So he's ordered a special. He has his own idea of what kind of layout he wants in it.
Does he still have the wood one, or is it?
He brought it down, actually, from Mattapoisett and showed it to me, and they're identical. The mold was taken off of a wooden one.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, it's and that the Koreans were famous boat builders in the Bedford area. His boat was built by which one of the Koreas anyway in North Dartmouth.
Okay.
And it's still he's got it stored in his garage and he had a plywood one built, and of course that fell apart. So now he wants he has a fiberglass one, but that one's getting very tired. He said because it had a double flow with flotation in between, which is usually doomed to failure
Yeah,
at
it
some
gets wet.
point. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he wants one built this winter.
Nice.
And that boat is everyone that's gone in that boat has had a blast. The thing is, it's a 14-foot boat, and it's lightweight. It's 230 pounds, and we're going to build some. Believe it or not, I hate to admit it, we're going to put rubber rails on them.
Are you?
Zero maintenance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we build them in teak, but that's $6,500.
How about some rope?
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
We can do
It's
that.
better
We
than
can,
the rubber ones.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, we can do anything.
Yeah.
With people, it's amazing what money can accomplish.
When I order mine, I want rope.
Okay, you'll have a rope. Rope it'll be.
Yeah. No, but we saw that boat, and like I say, I'll get some pictures of that before I leave as well. And yeah, that looks like just a perfect boat for cruising around harbors and bays.
It's
and
very
small, maneuverable,
exactly,
easy,
fast. And the thing is, too, I mean, you can put an outboard on there that will cost you $1,200, and it'll go fast.
And the flat bottom is huge too with families because the boat's so stable. Kids are running from
Yep.
side to side; I won't even move.
It won't. There's one in Chatham that goes out to Monomoy on a regular basis. Although they've changed the accessibility rules to Monomoy. I understand this
interesting.
year, so I'm not sure. Yeah, no more kiteboarding and things out there.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that boat. We've started, as soon as we started building one, it sold. It was like when we started building the Peapods and word got around. It was the first 4 Peapods were all sold before we could finish them.
Right. That's great.
Yeah, which is great, but we have clients like this Wiano Senior and this little Friendship sloop out front here. You saw that. I'm rewiring that now. That needs to be rewired as well. But that was a restoration project that
I love those boats. I love Friendship sloops.
Gorgeous. Yeah, it's a yawl rig too. I'll show you. It's Wooden Boat sells the sail plan, sells the building plans for it. But that was built by Crocker.
And it's got a gaff rig. With a headset.
No, it's a Marconi. Yeah.
Oh, is it a Marconi?
Yeah, it's a yawl. Yeah, I mean. Gorgeous boat. Those are the spars back there that you can't see if you're listening to this. They're also very gorgeous. You should come by my shop and visit. And so we're off track again.
Well, we got to the skiff.
New
Bedford skiff. What else do you have?
We have the dories. Those are the ones we're kind of sticking to now.
Okay.
But I have other molds if someone wanted something specifically. There's other stuff we build.
Yeah, and I'm assuming the bread and butter for the business is the repair work.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, if you're going to try to make a living building small boats,
nope.
Yeah, you'll be
out of business.
You'll be growing asparagus.
Yeah,
and eating that for the rest of your life because it comes back every year.
Yeah, right.
You wouldn't be able to afford the seeds. No, I mean I've had many job offers in my life that I would have made a lot more money, but I guess you build boats because you can.
Right.
I've had more people say, "Jesus, I wish I could. I would love to build a boat." I said, "But you know what? It's here's my advice." After many years of this, and this isn't my advice either. This was actually Pete Culler's quote. Experience starts when you begin.
Yeah.
And it's all you have to do is just start. If you try to figure, if you try to solve every problem in building a boat or repairing or restoring a boat at once, all in your head, you'll be overwhelmed instantly.
Yep.
30 seconds later, you're stuck. You'll freeze solid.
Mm-hmm.
You won't be able to do it. Just take it a step at a time, and a step at a time is very simple. There's nothing. I mean, of course. It's not going to go fast,
right?
But do one
Patience.
step at a time, and just go ahead and do it. Pick out a plan and start. Don't spend 2 years picking out a plan. Pick out what you want and something simple from, say, Wooden Boat Magazine, like the Lumberyard skiff or Phil Bolger's stuff is really easy to build. Very nice, and they're beautiful boats. As I can attest, yours.
Easy says you.
Well, no, you don't need a lot.
When you've only built one.
Well, no, yeah. Well, the second one will be.
Yeah,
we only have to build one to get the satisfaction. Well, okay, so Here's a point. Here's a point that people should consider. What else can you build that you can use as a form of transportation?
Right.
And get on the water.
Yep.
I mean, the atmosphere-ocean interface is where it's all happening on this planet,
Yep.
and that's where we should be
I agree.
now.
I agree. Yeah, we should have done this interview.
Actually, we should have taken one out.
Yeah.
Next time.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. That's actually a pretty good spot to wrap up the interview.
Okay.
Because I was going to say some final words or some words of it, but you did it already.
I have. I can't give it. There isn't any more sage advice to give it than to just start at the beginning.
And I agree with that 100%. When I built that skiff, that was kind of the way I went. I just said I just want to build a boat. And I just ordered a random set of plans. I needed a dinghy to get out to my other boat. So I wanted something flat that would be stable for the kids, and I just wanted something simple to build. And it was simple to build, absolutely. I was never a carpenter, had no experience with that. Always been very handy with just about everything. But, and it was easy to build. Took a ton of time.
Yeah.
But there were times where you'd look at it and be like, I'm never going to finish this boat. I'm overwhelmed with all the things I have to do. And you're right. You just have to kind of step back.
Too much thinking.
Yeah. I have to step back and say, well, what am I doing tonight? I'm putting the seat in tonight. I'm putting the stem in tonight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You just take one thing at a time and you get through it. And it was absolutely one of the most rewarding things I've ever done in my life.
It's quite satisfying.
It is, and now I'm building two, and
attaboy.
That overwhelming feeling comes in just about every night and whacks me. But my kids, I'm doing kind of a boat building class with my kids.
Oh, that's great.
So with my son, I'm building a wood duck kayak, and with
nice.
my daughter, I'm building that Bulger bobcat.
Right.
So they keep me going. So they come down and say, "What are we doing tonight, Dad?"
Oh well,
I'll be sweating.
Oh yeah, right. After a long day of work. Well, I've since I've been here, I've always had one kid that's an apprentice in here.
Yep, that's great. Yeah. That's great.
And they move on to make 10 times as much money as I do.
And open their own business.
Exactly.
With some Latin term.
Yeah. Well, no. One who was just here yesterday is now the boatman for MIT. Maintains their shells.
Nice.
Oh,
nice.
Yeah. He makes much more than I do.
I don't know though. Working for a college, those people don't make a ton of money there either.
He does quite well.
He's maintaining them though. Yeah. So that's a bit of an art form. He's probably doing okay. Yeah. All right. So, how if people are interested in your boats, how do they get in touch with you?
Email.
Email
is the easiest way. And
where's your website?
The website, the email
one of the same
link is on the website.
Okay.
It's Jon@arborvitaewoodworking.com.
Okay.
But if they go to my website, they'll see the link and they can email.
And what's the URL of the website? Is it Arborvitae?
Arborvitaewoodworking.com.
Okay. Good. Well,
maybe we should spell that.
For
all the non-Latin scholars.
When they go to whoever gets this, it'll be in the title.
So okay, good.
They'll see it.
Right, exactly.
They'll see it, and the podcast page will have pictures of all these beautiful things that I'm looking at that I'll convey to you as well as I can with my photography. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
It's been fantastic.
Appreciate it.
Excellent interview. Thank you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that podcast. As you can tell, I certainly enjoyed it. We had a blast. Hopefully, Jon and I, at some point this summer, will hook up for a sail somewhere. We're so close. I mean, my boat is moored in Lewis Bay in West Yarmouth, and he's in South Yarmouth. I think a couple of 6-packs and a nice warm afternoon might be a good time for us. It might be a dangerous time for us out on the water. It'd be good fun though. Jon's a great guy, and it was a great interview. I really enjoyed it. So please do connect. Again, my email address for subscribing is heritageboatworks.com/email1, all one word, the number 1. So connect with me and get my monthly newsletter. Also, you can find me on Facebook and Twitter under Heritage BW, B as in boy, W as in whiskey. I hope my my left-hand brewery milk stout helped out this podcast. You probably don't notice a difference, but I didn't have to do a whole lot of editing on this one because I didn't say the as much, or the or the space-filling drag that I seem to usually do. So hopefully that helps. I may have to have a stout before every podcast. Maybe that'll be my tradition going on out. So I hope you enjoyed the podcast. I look forward to next month, and sign up for my newsletter. Check out the resource page and keep in touch. Leave me some comments. Let me know what you think. Fair winds.